Two people finish the same dinner at exactly 7 p.m. Same calories, same night, same starting point. Neither of them eats again before bed. By 11 the next morning, one of them opens the kitchen again. That is 16 to 8 fasting. The other keeps the door closed until 6 p.m. One meal, roughly 23 hours without calories. For most of those first 16 hours, the movie playing inside their bodies is almost identical. Dinner fades, insulin falls. The liver starts reopening its fuel pantry. Stored fat begins paying a larger share of the energy bill. Then, hour 16 arrives. One person opens the door to food, the other keeps it locked. And the same metabolic road suddenly splits into two different journeys. So what do those extra 7 hours actually buy you? More stored fat use? Higher ketones? More cellular housekeeping? Or is OMAD's biggest difference not hidden in the empty hours at all, but in the meal waiting at the end? Let's start the clock. The clock starts the moment dinner ends. For the next few hours, your metabolism is not deep into a fast. It is still unloading dinner. Carbohydrate enters the blood as glucose. Amino acids arrive from protein. Fat is being packaged and moved. And insulin is the traffic controller standing in the middle of the intersection. While fuel is pouring in, the lights point inward. Tissues take energy up, while the exit gates on stored fat stay mostly closed. Extra glucose is packed into glycogen, mainly in the liver and muscles. Think of glycogen as the food in your kitchen pantry, easy to reach, useful tonight, but not endless. So during hours 0 to 4, 16 to 8, and OMAD are different labels on almost the same fed state scene. Both people are still spending dinner. The real metabolic story has not started yet. Then, dinner starts disappearing in the rearview mirror. Insulin keeps clocking down. Your liver cracks open the glycogen pantry to keep blood glucose steady. In the background, stored fat starts paying a larger share of the energy bill. And this is where hunger starts playing tricks on you. A wave of hunger at hour 6, 8, or 10 can feel like a fire alarm. But hunger is not a fuel gauge sliding neatly from full to empty. It comes in waves shaped by habit, hormones, sleep, and the times you normally eat. At the same time, another fuel source begins to flicker on. As the fast continues, fat tissue releases more fatty acids into the blood. Some travel to the liver, where they are turned into ketones. Ketones are another kind of fuel. They move through the blood, and even the brain can begin using them as the fast continues. In humans, ketone levels can start rising within roughly 8 to 12 hours after fasting begins. Not a switch, not instant ketosis. Ketosis is simply the state in which ketones build up in the blood and become a larger part of the body's fuel mix. Think of it as a backup generator beginning to hum while the main power source is still running. And now the key point. The 16 to 8 eater and the OMAD eater are still traveling the same road, but the fork is finally coming into view. By hour 12, yesterday's dinner is losing its grip on the system. Insulin is lower. Liver glycogen is being drawn down. More fatty acids are leaving fat tissue, and ketone production keeps rising. The body is reaching deeper into its own shelves. But do not mistake the clock for a biochemical starter pistol. Your previous meal, your activity, your carbohydrate intake, and your own metabolism can move these transitions earlier or later. The clock is a map, not a stopwatch. And the map points in one clear direction. The longer both people stay without calories, the more the fuel mix shifts away from incoming food and toward energy already stored inside the body. Now look 4 hours ahead. One person will eat, the other will not. Until then, 16 to 8 and OMAD are mostly two names for one metabolic road. Then the road splits. Hour 16, the fork in the road. The 16 to 8 eater opens the kitchen and breaks the fast. Food comes back online. Insulin answers. The body pivots toward incoming energy again. Ketone production is suppressed, and the fasting signal begins to retreat. The OMAD eater does nothing. Empty table. No reset. Insulin stays relatively low. Stored fat keeps supplying more of the fuel mix. Ketones can continue climbing. One person has stopped the fasting clock. The other keeps it running for roughly 7 more hours. At first, that sounds like an obvious victory for OMAD. 7 more hours of fasting. Case closed? Not even close. Because now the real comparison begins. What do those 7 hours buy you? And what do they cost? For the OMAD eater, the next few hours do not open a secret metabolic chamber. They simply push farther down the road the body was already traveling. Less incoming glucose, lower insulin exposure. Stored fat pays a larger share of the energy bill. And, for many people, ketone levels can climb higher than they were earlier in the fast. Same machinery, more time inside it. OMAD does not unlock a secret fuel that 16 to 8 can never touch. It simply stays on the fasted road longer. Then comes one of fasting's most famous promises, cellular cleanup. When nutrients and growth signals stay low, cells can increase stress response and recycling pathways, including autophagy. And this is where the internet story pulls out a fake stopwatch. We do not have a proven human clock showing autophagy off at hour 16 and suddenly on at hour 18. The biology is real. The stopwatch is fake. Those extra OMAD hours may keep conditions that favor fasting-related maintenance responses in place for longer, but no secret cleaning crew clocks in at exactly hour 18. That kills the easy story. If OMAD is not simply 16 to 8 plus 7 hours of superpowers, where does the bill arrive? By 20 hours and beyond, the OMAD eater has spent most of the day with no incoming calories. Under some conditions, small human studies suggest one meal patterns can increase fat oxidation. But this is where the clean OMAD story starts to crack. Because every extra fasting hour squeezes the eating day smaller. And when researchers put one meal patterns under the lights, the results stop behaving like a victory lap. Some small trials report more hunger. Others report less favorable blood pressure, cholesterol, or glucose responses, depending on the people, meal timing, and study design. That does not make OMAD bad. It means the biology refuses to hand us a simple winner. 7 extra hours can extend the fasted physiology. But the deeper fast sends a bill. Protein, fiber, micronutrients, and total energy now have fewer chances to get in. A whole day's nutrition eventually queues at one narrow loading dock, one meal. And that is when the second clock starts. You might think the biggest difference between 16 to 8 and OMAD lives entirely inside the empty hours. But the fasting clock stops at the first bite, and a second clock starts. With 16 to 8, daily nutrition has an 8-hour runway. That can mean 2 meals, sometimes 3. Protein can be distributed. Fiber and micronutrients can arrive in more than one delivery. The glucose load is split across more than one event. OMAD turns the whole day into one cargo drop. One meal has to deliver enough energy and enough nutrition without becoming so large that it is difficult to eat, digest, or repeat every day. And there is another hidden variable: the sun. Human studies of time-restricted eating suggest that when the eating window occurs, can change metabolic responses. Earlier, eating often looks more favorable than pushing the same food late into the biological night. So an early 16 to 8 window and a late-night OMAD meal are not merely 2 fasting durations. They are 2 different circadian experiments. That is the twist hidden inside the word fasting. Your body does not just count how long the door stays locked. It also reads what comes through that door and when it arrives. So what actually happens inside your body on 16 to 8 compared with OMAD. For most of the first 16 hours, the answer is almost anticlimactic. Same road. Both move away from the fed state. Both lower insulin between meals. Both lean harder on stored fuel. Both can raise ketones as the fast continues. Then 16 to 8 takes the exit. OMAD stays on the highway for several more hours. Those extra miles can extend the fasted state and push the fuel shift further. But OMAD does not unlock a secret second metabolism. An hour 20 is not automatically more valuable than hour 16 just because the number is bigger. Because a longer fast rewrites the other half of the day too. One eating window becomes one meal. Nutrition gets squeezed. Meal timing gets louder. And a plan that looks powerful on a clock can become much harder to execute on a plate. So the real difference between 16 to 8 and OMAD is not that one turns fasting on and the other does not. They enter the same metabolic road. They simply choose different exits. So stop asking which one is more extreme. Ask this: how much fasting gives you the benefits you are looking for without making the hours when you eat harder to do well? And if you have tried both, tell me what changed first for you: hunger, energy, focus, training, or the meal itself.